Hello everybody, this is Charles Anderson. I'm just a guy from Goodwill, and I've got a really great video game idea. It's month 9, 10, I don't know. It seems like a long time, but it's going to be an awesome game when it's finished. But right now, I'm still working on the toolkit, and because part of my toolkit is going to be what games that you play within the game to design new things to drop into the game and play with them. I know that I will need to be able to pump out some GUIs, so I've decided to go with Tone God's GUI, and let's go here. What I'm actually talking about today is, so we've got all these different elements in the GUI, and that's going to be a lot of code. And yes, that would be just fine. So, but I guess to thank Tone God for making an awesome module that she is, I am going to go on ahead and work on my trail because I want hologram panels, I want all kind of cool stuff. But there we are. I'll actually be dropping this topic over here, but I guess I'll put a link over there. What? I don't want this window. I don't want that window. So I'm going to be dropping this topic into the developing for the JME engine. Okay, because I actually started on the learning curve. Yes, I've been doing a lot of learning, and one of the things that I noticed is for the jMonkeyEngine environment, they go ahead and use NetBeans. And one of the cool things is when you are developing a module to extend for jMonkeyEngine, you're pretty much extending for NetBeans. How do I know? Well, when you run a module, do the press play, without installing reloading, it'll actually fire up a separate NetBeans platform, so I know that I need to target 7.3. Okay, so I've got that information. Oh, and yeah, this is my little sample where I started. But then, as I was working with the layout for this, I noticed, hey, there's a cool toolbar here. And they've got a source view, a design view, history view. That's just differences on where I've done different experiments to try to lay out. Because I want to be able to come into jMonkeyEngine, right? And, do one of these, I guess, here's a top component. And so, if you want to add a top component, you come in here, new, window, and you go through the wizard, it makes the top component. And of course, because it's a window, you see the Java file here, but there's actually a design section where you can visually design it. And I thought, that'd be pretty handy to, add that behavior to Tone God's stuff. So I've been doing research on this, and so as part of the donation to the knowledge base, one of the cool things is that for the components that you design in the Visual Designer, they go straight to source. That's a pretty neat thing. If you'll notice here, these lines are colored on the source code, and they've got a editor fold. And this stuff in these lines, they're colored because if you write something in here and then go over to design and change anything, then it overwrites everything in this section right here. So the color signifies, hey, if you try to change anything in here, it's going to be automatically just overwritten because this is generated from the program itself. So, hey, we could probably do this code generation for Tone God's GUI. Now, one of the cool things that I've noticed, of course, we have our jMonkey palette for the Java source code, but when we flip over into design mode, it changes. This is a navigator window from my research into NetBeans, and so this is a node tree right here that they've got, and the various elements, visible and non-visible, like data sources and such that it relies upon to render values and stuff, are in on the navigator. And as I flip between each of the elements, you'll notice that it affects the properties. And each of these properties are editable. Like here, you can actually insert code for an event. Bam, you can add a handler and then code up the handler on the other component side, and so this would work perfectly with, like, I believe jMonkeyEngine's controls and such like that. Also, the palette is modified. You have these palette nodes underneath the children keys underneath the nodes that you can just drop in there, and I thought that would be a really neat thing to do for that. And of course, I know I'm setting myself up for a lot of work, but hey, that would be a cool tool to add. So on that learning trail, I learned that on doing research for the Swing GUI builder. That's what that is, Project Matisse formerly. And so that's over on NetBeans. Just look for the Swing GUI building, formerly Project Matisse. And then doing research on that, we also have a tutorial on file type integration. Now, file type integration, in that, if you'll notice, for this, you see your top component.java, right? And, there's the source. But there's also another file that you do not see in Files View or Project View, which is in existence. So let's see, head over here. And it's called .form. And that's what they've attached their stuff to. It shows Java. And so this form file is actually this stuff that you're working with. That's the design. And then, of course, the Java is both of them together. So let's head over to okay, I showed that. So suppressing the file showing up in the Explorer window, but showing it for, oh yes, and of course you see your components. This is the navigator, and when you go over to design, it alters it to the other layout. So all of these are connected to what is called a multi-view window. There we go, multi-view window, and that's the basis for making that cool thing. Of course, I would just have to come over here and code up for the design view, and instead just code up the jMonkeyEngine window, which will be the preview for, in other words, the layout for the ToneGod GUI. And of course, you can also add buttons to each individual toolbar. Flip over to source, there's the source button toolbar. On the design, there's a toolbar in and of itself. And you can click on items in it and bind them to events. And there's also a little preview here. Of course, mine does not specify a resolution. Get back here. There we are. So, but I would implement some code for previewing. Of course, you'd be able to set your resolution. One of the whole things is that I want a base resolution, because when you design a GUI, you kind of want it to look the same no matter the resolution. And so there's a lot of things to consider. However, if you render to a quad, it's going to look the same no matter the resolution, especially if you overlay it in the GUI panel. But you get this scaling thing to consider. I'll go into that, but no, I won't go into that. No. Yeah, I'd have to fire up the tests and show off how stuff gets scaled with cameras and when you attach them to the viewport, but that's neither here nor there. One of the big things that I'm having to consider is rendering priorities, because one of the problems with having a GUI built is if you have a dependency on a frame buffer object. You could actually use a rendered frame as a graphic to insert into your GUI, so that way you can have like robots, the screen showing a preview of like a cool suit of armor or a robot or whatnot as part of the GUI. And of course, I'd have to supply a dummy frame showing, hey, this is an external dependency on something else that's rendered. So, but then when you press the preview, then I would like to bind it correctly and show out of everything with the proper bindings and stuff. But that will be later. At any rate, I know where I'm headed with this, as far as like, hey, they did a good job with the Swing GUI builder, formerly Project Matisse. And so I'm going to be doing more research and doing the initial layouts and stuff to have Tone Gods elements over here and then being able to resize it. And for those people who, the base resolution will be set, then to have like the preview mode in different resolutions and then have an alternate view mode for like a pixel perfect view where, there's only so much room in this designer, and I'm going to have it scaled to where you can roughly lay it out, but then you flip to pixel perfect mode, and for the base resolution that you're designing for, you'll have to scroll around. You'll have to scroll around to look at the whole picture in that rendering mode. So, okay, I did my thing, and that's where I'm at. I know basically the design I've got to go with, and now all it's do is do that, do more research, and I'll also have to analyze the render manager some more to find out about, because typically for rendering to a GUI element, a normal GUI element is the part of the post process, so it's one of the final things rendered. So usually you're safe if you just create a main view renderer. But if you're using a GUI element on like a primitive, like on the 3D capable GUI, you kind of got to do a pre-render. Oh, I love that book, by the way. I love that book. I actually was going to do a book myself, but yeah, I'd have different stuff. Yeah. Oh, P-Speed, you beat me to it. Oh well, no problem. But as far as like rendering to off-screen surfaces, then rendering them to the quad, you have to go into preview for your GUI to show up on a quad on your main view. Otherwise, you're going to be off by a frame. So, that's about all that I had to say about that. That's where I'm at on this particular phase. I've just been learning and learning, and I think I'm ready to start generating. So that's where I'm at. Y'all have a good one, and have fun.